Welcome to the fifth session of Bridge Over Troubled Waters. This presentation is for parents, caregivers and professionals, especially those who are working with children and teenagers who are stressed and/or distressed, thus causing concern for the adults in their life, whether they're caregivers, friends of the family or professionals. This is session 5 and there are 10 sessions, all free and all available through Facebook. This session, session 5, is all about boundaries and boundary setting for you and your young person. I hope you enjoy it. Keeping the moral high ground. It's really important to stay above the line. If you stay above the line, you and those around you will grow. If you go below the line, restriction is all you're going to get. So let's have a look at what is entailed with staying above the line and keeping the moral high ground. Okay, first of all, we need to have a positive attitude. We will be relaxed, thoughtful, think the best about all involved and look on the happy side. We'll look at accountability and responsibility. We will fulfill our obligations, we'll do as we say, we will walk the walk, we will do the right thing. We will be honest and respectful, building trust, only dealing in fact and truth. We will listen to others and we'll ask questions. We will also take ownership. We will use our manners and own up to any misdeeds. We will stand by the truth. Kia kaha, we will be strong. If we go below the line or we're acting out below the line, then we will be into blame and justification. We will be into resistance and denial. We will be into put-downs and rejections. Boundary pointers. When you haven't set boundaries clearly before, or when you have set them previously and then given in, it can be hard work trying to set new and effective ones. Any change in the family routine can be tricky. So here are some pointers that should help. When we identify we need to set a limit with someone, do it clearly, without anger and in as few words as possible. We cannot simultaneously set a boundary or a limit and take care of the other person's feelings. They have to take care of their own, but we have to be fair, kind, and staying above the line. We will probably feel awkward and may be afraid when we set boundaries. Do it anyway. Anger, rage, complaining and whinging are clues that boundaries need to be set. We will be tested when we set boundaries. Prepare for it. Have a plan ready. Be prepared to follow through. Our behaviour needs to match our boundaries. Some people are happy to respect our boundaries. The problem hasn't been what they've been doing to us. It is what we've been doing to ourselves, which includes allowing them to walk all over us and not being prepared to stand up for what is fair or right. We will set boundaries when we're ready and not a minute sooner. Do it with thought, do it well, and do it with support from others. A support system can be helpful as we strive to establish and enforce boundaries. It makes us feel safer and will show we mean what we say. There is a fun side to boundary setting, the exciting discoveries about how calm and strong we can be. Tina and Ben's story, all about boundaries. Tina and Ben had 2 children, Corey, 15, and Jazz, 13. Both had been creating real problems for Tina and Ben. Tina and Ben thought they were really loving parents. They thought they had done everything to help the children on their path to adulthood, but recently, SIFs had become involved in their family. Corey had been in 2 big bits of trouble and heaps of minor escapades. Jazz seemed to be following in his footsteps. To add to all of this, Tina and Ben were at each other's throats the whole time. Tina was wondering how on earth she had decided to have children and saw Ben as a complete stranger. Ben had become defensive and snarly,
always thinking the worst of the kids. Wasn't he supposed to be the protective one, she thought to herself. Ben now hated coming home from work. He felt nothing he did was good enough. The kids were going through these horrible stages and he and Tina seemed to have fallen out. They just bickered and nitpicked over the slightest things, and the serious stuff seemed too big for either of them to deal with. He could see Tina hardly wanted to be in the same room as him. She had no respect for him. It was at this stage that they turned up to a group on parenting teens called Negotiating the Minefield I had developed and was running. In this program, boundaries were covered in the first session. There were some very big learnings for both Tina and Ben. They were aghast at what had so easily happened and what was going so very wrong. So much so that they held hands in the car and rang Ben's mum and asked her if she could stay overnight as they had some serious talking and planning to do. That was 9:30 p.m. They got home at 1:30 a.m. that night. Boundary 1. Respect and lead by example. Tina and Ben started by looking at their own behaviours and setting some standards and bottom lines there. They resolved to treat each other and everyone else with the respect they wanted. They would let their actions demonstrate the respect they had for themselves and others. They both agreed that they had lost self-respect and that they needed to be improved. If they both worked on this, then the children would have a clearer example of how they needed to be. Boundary 2. Being on the same page. Next, they looked at how they both needed to be on the same page because clearly they had not been. It seemed that Tina gave in to just about everything that the children asked most of the time, and then, scared that she was being seen as weak, became stupidly harsh at other times. When she thought about it, it seemed this was to counteract how short-tempered and harsh Ben had become, with him sometimes completely giving up and saying, "Whatever." They saw how each of them had been undermining not only each other but also themselves, and how confusing and unsettling this must have been for the children. They knew how bad they each felt, and they were thinking their relationship was over. They asked themselves, what must that then be like for the children, who, although teenagers, still depended on their parents? They sorted out what was acceptable to and for each of the two children. They made detailed lists, non-negotiable behaviour and expectations. These were the things that both Tina and Ben agreed on. Examples. Corey was expected to be home and in bed by 9:30. Both Jazz and Corey were to let their parents know where they were at all times. Changes in plans were to be communicated before they happened. If that standard was not met, there would be consequences. They even worked out those too. So the non-negotiables were all the stuff that Tina and Ben could say yes or no to, and know that the other would be in total agreement with them. They then made a list of the negotiable activities and expectations. These were the things that Tina and Ben needed to discuss before they agreed to one or both of the children doing it. There was not to be see what Dad says type thing. Rather, they decided it would be, I'm not sure about that. Your dad and I will have a yarn and I'll let you know after tea. It would also be made clear that devious behaviour around this would not be tolerated. That is, there would be consequences if either Jazz or Corey tried to undermine by either nagging or getting to the other parent first. Boundary 3. Develop plans together. Tina and Ben saw that the issues they had to face were going to take a while to sort out, and they needed to communicate together well if they were to help their children. Ben had seen a chart on the wall that he had asked me if he could have a copy of. They decided to use that as their default setting. Whenever there was anything to discuss, they wanted to explain it to both Jazz and Corey so they could use it as well. And the chart was the stop, stand tall, open-hearted and proud chart.
You might just want to pause here for a moment and think about the last two slides and brainstorm boundaries that you need to put in place to help your family. Please feel free to do so. The following slides are to be considered when you are setting boundaries in your home. Here we have the various options for parenting. The optimum, or the one that we're after, is actually to be a balanced parent. Take time to have a really good look at the difference between that and the others. Check out your own parenting style and also check out the styles of the other adults and the significant people in your child's life. Balanced parents are warm, supportive and unconditionally loving, but they're not overindulgent. They are aware and involved, but not interfering or overly controlling. They are clear and firm about boundaries and do not shy away from conflict if necessary. They are permissive within set boundaries, and that gives the teen or the young person a level of age-appropriate autonomy, but they are not neglectful. Whether your child is a child or a teenager, it is important to begin with the end in mind. Be clear about what you want for their future. You want them to have a sense of purpose. You want them to be able to get a job, so they're going to need to have the skills and the ability to do that. You want them to have meaning in life. You want them to have and be able to participate in recreational activities and experiences. You want them to have shared experiences involving their gender friends, their age friends, their culture friends, and their ableness friends. And you want them to grow up and have a positive sexual identity. Have a think about these and think what you need to do with your boundaries to help them maintain, to help them gain and maintain these things. This is an interesting slide. It explains how you come to do the things that you do. So, what I think determines what I feel. What I feel determines what I do. So if I want to change what I do, I have to change my thinking. Are there things that are going on in your home where you need to change your thinking? Changing a behaviour or a habit. There have been many studies done on what works and what does not work. Here are the basics of what we know works. 1. Knowledge. What I do and why I do it. Understanding and being clear about what the negative behaviour or habit is. Knowing that there are different, more positive ways to behave and to get our needs met. 2. Motivation. Having the desire to change, the want to change. Having a sense of purpose and a reason for change. Knowing that good or better things will happen if you change. 3. Skills. These are the how to change, the techniques, the ability to strategize and find the right skill for the particular job. Strategies, plans and contingency plans are in place. Support. The ability to accept and even ask for support and assistance from friends, family and others. It is about having in place the right role models, leadership, etc., so that you can do the job you need to do. Getting it right. This will spur us on to keep making the change and to try for bigger and even more difficult behaviour change down the line. What we are talking about is what is needed to change a behaviour.
When we change our own behaviour and reactions, we are demonstrating new ways of being to our families, our friends, our work colleagues and our neighbours. We are also showing them change is possible. It is about making our communities better places to live for us, our children, our grandchildren and our friends.
We hope that this 5th session of Bridge Over Troubled Waters has provided you with more ideas about parenting positively and confidently, and how important it is for you to set good boundaries. The 6th session is about the role of praise and understanding. The 7th session is about what works and problem solving. The 8th session is about when I might lose it and what I'm going to do about it. And the 9th session is about contracts and rosters. Session 10, the last session, is all about putting it together and where to now. For more information about this program and these sessions, simply check Facebook Joy U Sylvia or email joy@joysylvia1@gmail.com. If you found these sessions interesting and or useful, please do leave a comment, and please pass them on to your friends and family anywhere you think they might be useful. Thank you. Here are the 4 books that I currently have published. They're all available on Amazon, or you can go to my website if you wish to purchase them locally. So we have A Bridge Over Troubled Waters, a guide for managing tricky teenage behaviours. It is easy to follow and apply and has been designed to equip both the caregiver and the professional with effective strategies for the seemingly relentless onslaught of difficult and sometimes frightening behaviours caregivers and professionals have to manage in today's society. The diagrams, together with the insightful real-life stories of parents working through the material, bring about an attitude and belief that change is indeed possible. Say No to Bullying: Factors, Challenges and Strategies. This book helps the weak become strong and the supposedly tough become true heroes. This is a book about a nasty and vicious topic that will warm the cockles of your heart. It is amazingly easy to read and hard to put down. Whether the players in these intricate and often complex bullying situations are primary school age children, teenagers, parents, work colleagues, staff, or residents in a rest home, this book explains how to deal with it and how to help the players grow, feel good about themselves and their actions, and find appropriate power. Dealing with difficult people, managing conflict, bloody-mindedness and other intercommunicational difficulties at home and at work. Heaps of information, diagrams and life stories to help you deal appropriately with and confidently with those difficult people in your life who misuse power, threaten and or play mind games. Project Alpha. This is an exciting New Zealand-based adventure mystery series for young teens, so about 10 years to 14 years old. The plot involves the kidnapping of the Project Alpha CEO, with the baddies intent on stealing 3 active satellites, disabling the worldwide GPS system, and generally attempting to take over the world. So the odds are heavily stacked against Jimmy and his band of oddball adults, including the FBI, NASA, Interpol and several New Zealand Defence Force representatives. Jimmy's mission is to save the world and capture the bad guys. Jimmy's mum has sent him to stay with his Uncle Ben, an astrophysicist and computer games designer who lives in a remote part of the West Coast Alpine region on the station that houses the observatory and the labs of Project Alpha. As an experienced social worker with a passion for personal and community development, I have particularly enjoyed the ability to weave narrative that can surreptitiously help young people deal with anxiety, difficult backgrounds, new situations, learn how to problem solve, and take appropriate self-responsibility.